So, what happens when the one person who's supposed to defend you, your lawyer, actually becomes the biggest roadblock to getting justice? Well, today we're going to dig into a case all documented in court records that really puts a spotlight on a massive system failure and a fundamental right, the Sixth Amendment right to effective legal counsel. All right, let's just dive right in. We're going to walk through this whole story, starting with the really serious charges filed against a defendant named Kelly Lynch. Then we'll cover this bizarre year of just nothing, leading all the way up to this explosive showdown in the courtroom where it all came crashing down. Okay, first things first. Let's talk about the legal foundation here. Your right to a lawyer? That's not just a nice idea. It's a pillar of the American justice system. And it doesn't just mean you get a warm body sitting next to you in court. It means you're supposed to have a competent, skilled advocate fighting for you. And this right here, this is the core of our story. Proving ineffective counsel is a really, really high bar to clear. We're not talking about a lawyer making a simple mistake. No, this is about a lawyer's performance being so bad, so deficient, that it basically destroys any chance of a fair trial. You have to prove two things. One, that the lawyer messed up badly, and two, that their screw-up actually hurt your case. And for Kelly Lynch, man, the stakes were incredibly high. Just look at this list of charges. We've got multiple felonies. 2 of them are first-degree felonies. This is serious, life-changing prison time on the table. And that top charge, trafficking, that one came with a mandatory minimum sentence, no wiggle room. Now, let's get to what you might call the smoking gun. This is a piece of information that was basically gift-wrapped and handed to the defense team right from the get-go. And this, right here, is where the story takes a very sharp, very wrong turn. Just 3 days. 3 days after being hired, the defense attorney, Jonathan Mills, gets this text message. And look, this isn't some vague tip. This is a complete roadmap to gutting the state's case. It literally says, the trafficking can go away, it names the witness, Tara, gives her phone number, and explains exactly why the charge is bogus. The defense was basically spoon-fed to him. So what do you do with a text like that? I mean, for any competent defense attorney, it's an absolute no-brainer. You follow this playbook right here. You call Tara immediately, you get a sworn statement, you get those prescription records, and you march right into the prosecutor's office and show them their biggest charge is toast. This isn't some fancy legal maneuvering. This is just basic day one stuff. And this is where it gets unbelievable. At a bond hearing, just a couple of weeks later, the key witness, Tara Weeks, wasn't just available by phone. She was physically at the courthouse. Court records show she was literally waiting in the hallway. And she was never called to testify. The one person who could blow up the trafficking charge was right there and was completely ignored. You know that huge missed opportunity at the bond hearing? Turns out, that wasn't a one-time thing. It was actually a preview of what was to come. It was the start of a whole year of silence, of neglect, of absolutely nothing getting done. I mean, just look at this timeline. A continuance is just a legal way of saying a delay. And what do you see? Continuance, reset, another continuance. For nearly a year, the case just gets kicked down the road again and again. And during all this time, 0 depositions were taken, just stalled. You can just feel the frustration in this text message, can't you? It's sent more than 7 months after the lawyer was hired. The client's advocate is practically begging for information. Have you scheduled depositions or anything? It's a simple question, but by this point, the answer was still a resounding no. So this pattern of doing nothing, of constant delays, it became so blatant that it wasn't just the client who was getting frustrated. The court, the judge, and the prosecutor, they were starting to notice too. And their patience was about to run out. Okay, get this. It's April 2023, a really critical pretrial hearing. And the defense attorney, Mills, he's a no-show. Instead, he sends a substitute who then has to stand up in front of the judge and admit that after all this time, they still hadn't managed to serve the subpoenas to the witnesses. Why? Because of bad addresses. And that's when the prosecutor, Richard Walsh, just lets him have it. On the record, he lays out the entire frustrating history of delays for the judge. He points out it's the 7th trial setting, and he ends by saying, my witnesses are frustrated, and frankly, so am I. The prosecutor himself is calling out the defense's inaction. And then the judge drops the hammer. Judge Madrigal's response is just dripping with sarcasm. He basically says, finding addresses? Seems like something you could have done, I don't know, a year ago. And with that, he denies the request for another delay. No more excuses, no more time. So now we jump forward just 1 week. The judge's words are hanging in the air. The trial is looming. The pressure on Attorney Mills has hit a boiling point. And it all leads to this one moment in the courtroom that changes absolutely everything. Right? This is the big question. When all the excuses have been used up and you're standing in front of a judge who is clearly out of patience, what do you do? What do you say? So there he is, Attorney Mills, in person this time, standing before Judge Madrigal. The judge wants answers about the failed depositions. Mills approaches the bench, and what he says next is the pivot point for this entire case. And there it is, right there, in open court, on the official record. When confronted about the discovery failures, Jonathan Mills says, quote, "Yeah, I'll take fault for that." It's a stunning confession. It's a direct admission of failure, of responsibility for the very thing that had derailed his own client's case and drawn the ire of the entire court. That one little sentence, "I'll take fault for that," was a legal bombshell. It set off a chain reaction that completely blew up the plea deal that had been put together and, honestly, called the integrity of the entire judicial process into question. So a few months later, they're at the final sentencing hearing, and Kelly Lynch tries to withdraw her plea. This puts the judge in a completely impossible situation, because now the focus wasn't just on the defendant's guilt or innocence, it was on the undeniable incompetence of her lawyer. And this quote from Judge Madrigal says it all. He sees the writing on the wall. He recognizes that there is now a built-in conflict. He's basically saying that because the defense was so bad, any sentence he hands down is probably just going to get overturned on appeal anyway. The process was broken, and the judge knew it. And that leaves us with this huge, lingering question. This case is a pretty chilling look at what happens when your legal representation just completely falls apart. But who's really accountable in the end? Is it just this one lawyer, or is it the system itself? A system that allowed this to happen in the first place? It really makes you wonder.